Much like Star Wars, Marvel, and Disney, the Batman brand is one that tends to inspire its own world of overly enthusiastic nerds. Each film release comes with a hype machine so tangible you could slice it with a batarang. And as fans and media race to feed into that excitement, it's inevitable that some half-truths and untruths end up being peddled out as fact. Even more shocking is the revelation that some of the myths you'd usually dismiss as hogwash immediately are actually true. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are the 10 most notorious Batman urban legends. Number 10. There's a Batman curse. Possibly. But it's a curse, so no. According to accepted wisdom, there's a hellish Batman curse that has killed and almost killed numerous people over the years. Back in the 60s, Burt Ward was almost killed on the first day of shooting Batman 1969. Stuntman Conway Wycliffe was killed in a stunt on The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger died tragically whilst filming the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Morgan Freeman was almost killed in a car wreck in 2008, and Anne Hathaway's stunt double was almost killed after crashing into cameras during The Dark Knight Rises shoot. Also, the plane used in The Dark Knight Rises prologue to transport Dr. Pavel crashed in Botswana almost a year after the film was released, killing the pilot and co-pilot. Coincidence? I think it probably is. Number 9. Batman 1966's set was an orgy. Untrue. In 1991, former boy wonder Burt Ward released a tell-all expose of his time as Robin, which effectively painted a picture of the set as a constant orgy, fueled by free-running sex and debauchery. Fun. One interview released at the time selling the book to potential audiences includes a raft of lurid revelations, though all introduced with the caveat that it was the 60s and everyone was bonking everyone else, so that's fine, that makes it okay. It all sounds too weird to be true, which it partly was. Later, presumably after cashing his check from the book sales, Ward admitted that he was goaded by the publishers to make the book more interesting and just made most of it up, including his vengeful claims of Adam West's failures to perform sexually. I suppose you could call Burt a shitboy wonder who backstabbed his pointy-eared mentor for wankers. Hashtag shitboy wonder who backstabbed his pointy-eared mentor for wankers. Number 8. Disney-owned critics killed Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. Untrue. According to popular fanboy ire in the wake of the critical mauling of both Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, Marvel-financed critics supposedly flooded the web, and specifically Rotten Tomatoes, with poor reviews in order to kill the hype around the films, stopping them from hitting the delicious $1 billion box office take. That is certainly nonsense, as the idea that anyone could coordinate a payoff on that scale with a load of opinionated journalists who would love nothing more than a story as juicy as bribery and intrigue is just ludicrous. Also, anyone who saw either of those films is largely in agreement that they're both utter wank. Number 7. There was supposed to be a Dark Knight tie-in video game. True. Before the Batman Arkham games were released to massive critical acclaim, there was initially going to be a tie-in game for The Dark Knight that would have been released in June 2008, similarly to the one they did for Batman Begins. It wasn't widely publicized and began to take on the label of being an urban legend when it didn't materialize. It was particularly talked about in those terms because the only mention of it publicly came from Gary Oldman accidentally. The truth is that the game did exist, but was killed by Star Wars Battlefront developer Pandemic failing to hit their schedule. The release date was pushed back to December 2008 to suit the Blu-ray release, but they failed to deliver and the game was cancelled, leaving behind a bill of $100 million and a few whispering glimpses of what could have been, and then Pandemic shut down. Number 6. Bob Kane purposefully diminished Bill Finger's role in creating Batman. True. It sounds awful, particularly now that DC have started crediting Bill Finger as the co-creator of Batman, but rumor has it that Bob Kane put a lot of effort into crushing the perception that Finger was as important to the character's creation as he was. It might sound like fiction, but unfortunately, it's all true. Kane consciously and very publicly called out Finger supporting claims as incorrect, threatening to sue those who published them. Infamously, he sent a letter to fanzine Batmania's editor stating in no uncertain terms that it was all hogwash. I, Bob Kane, am the sole creator of Batman. I created Batman in 1939, and I signed the first strip. The long letter called such accusations fraudulent and entirely untrue, mostly because the original Batman strip carried only Kane's name in the byline, as if that was any concrete proof. Number 5. Jai Courtney took drugs and self-abused for Suicide Squad. Tangentially related Batman rumor now, and the stories of what happened on the Suicide Squad set could probably make for a diverting expose movie in their own right. The studio allegedly allegedly waded in to edit their own film, strong-arming David Ayer into claiming it as his own in the process. Jared Leto ran wild over his co-stars, staying in character by sending disturbing gifts to everyone, and Ayer encouraged some weird methods for getting into character. And by weird, we mean he sent actors into the woods alone, made them read up on the psychology of murder, and generally let them all throw restraint out of the window. Somewhat notoriously, he apparently also accepted some dangerous behavior from Jai Courtney on his way to his best performance. According to Yahoo, Courtney went the extra mile in a Skype call to Ayer by taking drugs and burning himself with a cigarette. Was it worth it, Jai? No. Look at those reviews. It was not. Number 4. The delayed explosion scene in The Dark Knight was ad-libbed. Untrue. As a mark of Heath Ledger's genius performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight, the story goes that he ad-libbed one of the film's most notorious scenes, when Mr. J tries to blow up the hospital but is foiled by a faulty remote. Rumor always had it that the malfunction was unintentional, and Ledger styled it out so well that it made it into the final film, which is a nice, romantic myth, but a made-up one unfortunately. As revealed in the film's Blu-ray special editions, the scene was shot as it was shown in the final cut, and the delay was deliberate in order to allow Ledger to be right next to the building when he tried to blow it up first. The scene was endlessly rehearsed according to the in-film focus point description, which specifies 12 different dry runs. Not quite as magical. Number 3. Bill Murray almost played Batman. True-ish. As the internet will tell you, Bill Murray was really close to being cast as Batman in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, which would surely have changed everything about the dark film. The truth is a little more complicated. It wasn't Burton who would have cast Murray at all, and the film he would have starred in was mostly unrecognizable from Burton's final film. Instead, Murray was targeted by Ivan Reitman, who also wanted to cast Eddie Murphy as Robin, and who was attached to Tom Mankiewicz's The Batman, which would have initially been released in 1985. It went through at least 9 separate rewrites, and eventually Burton was hired, at which point he rejected Tom Mankiewicz's script as too campy. Number 2. Trump's inauguration speech was stolen from Bane. Untrue. Hopefully. As well as claiming he stole a speech from the B movie, it was also said that Trump stole Bane's speech from The Dark Knight Rises for his inauguration, and mainstream media sites regurgitated the claim. Trump said, "But we are transferring the power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people." Bane said, and I'm not going to do an impression here, "We take Gotham from the corrupt, the rich, the oppressors of generations who've kept you down with myths of opportunity, and we give it back to you, the people." He didn't directly lift the speech, but as The Independent remarks, Trump's speech does share eerie sentiments with Bane's rabble-rousing speech, but whether he actually sat down and cribbed from The Dark Knight Rises remains a little doubtful. At least, let's hope so. Bane could utterly destroy him. Number 1. Playing the Joker killed Heath Ledger. Untrue. According to the narrative that swirled around Heath Ledger's death, particularly thanks to the revelation of his personal Joker diary, his experience shooting The Dark Knight caused him permanent mental trauma. He was left with insomnia after channeling his dark side too closely and required sleeping pills to help him get any sleep. This was pointed out as the reason for his death, adding a mythology to his performance that arguably makes it even more astonishing. But his sister says it's untrue. "I spoke to him the night before he died and we were laughing and joking. He was so proud of what he'd done in Batman, and I know he had plans for another Batman. He loved working with Chris Nolan and Christian Bale and Gary Oldman. He just had the best time ever doing that film. When he came home at Christmas, he couldn't wait to tell us all about it, and he was doing the voice and laughing, showing me all the rushes. We had a great time." Oh, that's nice. And that's our list. Make sure you subscribe to the What Culture YouTube channel for more lists like this, and don't forget to visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. I'm Ben from What Culture. You can follow me here on Twitter, and thanks for watching.